Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey, the viewer is cast through an exceptional journey of realization and mystery. This film handles thought-provoking ideals of self, existentialism, and even calls destiny into question. Through organic dialogue and inverted tropes, the movie establishes its characters and universe very neatly and naturally.
The movie begins with a black screen, then an intense orchestral score begins to play. It continues for 3 minutes, although it feels like an eternity. After this, the iconic movie theme begins to play, and the first act of the movie is introduced. The black screen and the song make the viewer uncomfortable, and it creates anticipation. It also serves to disorient the viewer because it is very different from what average viewers are used to.
This blackness also serves to set the pacing of the movie. A lot of the criticism of this movie is that it is slow and boring.
Are you not entertained?
This is most likely because people are used to a much faster-paced movie experience like this.
The genius of this movie is not all visual. However, inside nearly every scene, there is something through which subtext can be drawn. Every angle, every tiny action is deliberate and serves to either build exposition or lead the viewer to understand something that goes otherwise unaddressed.
An example of something integral to the foreshadowing of the plot goes unaddressed and is hidden in the dialogue between Hal and one of the humans. When they're playing chess, Hal makes a mistake.
HAL 9000 computer, which can reproduce most of the activities of the human brain, and with incalculably greater speed and reliability.
Yeah, looks like you're right.
This foreshadows major events later in the movie, namely Hal's eventual mental breakdown.
Daisy, give me your answer too.
Much of the world building comes from the beautiful madcap set pieces and camera angles. The philosophy of the world is established in the first act of the movie, in which a bone used as a tool by a proto-human is juxtaposed with a space shuttle and rapid match cut, which is a hard transition between two seemingly unrelated items expressing an idea by relating them in an unmistakable way.
It's in these massive shots and sets that the viewer can gather all of the visual symbols and tones that supplement the story. For example, the astronauts are frequently shown with their faces illuminated by the glow of monitors and screens, emphasizing the hold that technology has taken upon humanity.
Another example of symbolism within the visuals is the way that space is so prevalently shot. It is used heavily throughout the movie to convey feelings of disquieting isolation.
The interactions between organic, robotic, and interdimensional beings within this movie create a strange underlying concept of foreign clashing with spectrums of familiar. The interactions between the two humans and their interactions with Hal are very monotone and, ironically enough, very robotic.
Oh, Frank, I'm having a bit of trouble with my transmitter and C-pod. I wonder if you'd come down and take a look at it with me.
Sure.
See you later, Hal.
Whereas Hal is the only one to really express anxieties and inquiries about things that are not a major part of their mission.
How do you mean?
Well, it's rather difficult to define. Perhaps I'm just projecting my own concern about it. I know I've never completely freed myself of the suspicion that there are some extremely odd things about this mission.
The reversal of these tropes makes the dialogue fresh and different from the terrible dialogue of otherwise popular movies.
You're shorter than I expected.
I'm overwhelmed, sir.
The Chancellor is not a bad man, Obi-Wan.
Don't ask me to do that.
What have I done?
I will do whatever you ask.
From my point of view, the Jedi are evil!
I don't like sand.
The way the monolith interacts with the characters is vastly different from regular tropes of interaction. This interdimensional being interacts much more aggressively than its cinematic counterparts. Instead of using any form of language to communicate, the monolith forcibly sends people through the interdimensional paths, using visuals to try to instill within them its wisdom.
This brings us to the final act of the movie. One of the biggest problems that people have with this act of the movie is that it seems like a big mess of nonsense. While the final act of the movie does look like the most terrifying rave ever attended, all of it does indeed have a meaning beyond what is seen. The sense of disorientation that the viewer feels harkens back to the uncomfortable blackness at the beginning of the movie. It takes much more effort to understand what is really happening than, say, this.
This movie is so incredibly thought-provoking. It will call into question everything you thought you knew about science fiction and possibly yourself. This movie is literally perfect in every way. The deliberation of characters and set pieces, the seemingly obtuse story, and the deeper meaning of this movie make it an undisputed classic. Though, if I learned anything from this movie, is that you don't necessarily need to understand something to appreciate it.
That was good. That was surprisingly good.
Oh, shut up.